Good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Cody Cup, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Katagiwina. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACDI, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we're going to have Robert Lilligren on in just a minute here, and I got to see him speak up on the big stage at the convention center here in Minneapolis, and really excited to have him on. But before we have Robert on, Haley, we have an update from the governor of Wisconsin, Governor Evers. Why don't we take a quick listen?
Hey there, Native Roots Radio. Governor Tony Evers here with my weekly update. Making sure our workforce is prepared to meet the needs of a 21st century economy is a top priority for me and my administration, and it's one of the reasons I declared 2024 the Year of the Worker. I promised during my 2024 State of the State address that we'd continue pursuing every pathway to address our state's generational workforce challenges, just as we have for the past 5 years. And one high-need area of our workforce where we know we have work to do to retain, recruit, and train talented workers is our education workforce. Our teachers and educators work every day to do what's best for our kids, but recent estimates show that only 67% of new educators in Wisconsin make it past 5 years. So we're launching a new teacher apprenticeship pilot program to provide more mentorship and support for new educators. This new pilot program will help address issues in turnover and retention, while also bolstering and strengthening the state's educator pipeline by reducing barriers and encouraging more young people to enter the field. While student teaching can be cost prohibitive for low-income students, non-traditional students, or individuals looking to change careers, our new apprenticeship program will enable people to earn while they learn with paid on-the-job training and classroom instruction. This program will also have built-in mentorship opportunities, a key part of helping with retention and building networks of support for new teachers. What's best for our kids is what's best for our state, and this new apprenticeship program will help keep class sizes small and reduce barriers for folks to jumpstart their careers in education. That's a win-win for our kids, our schools, and our workforce too. Thank you. Back to you, Robert, and Native Roots Radio.
Wow. That was an awesome update. Hey, we have Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. And we just so happened to get a report the same day you come on, Robert. That was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, very inspiring. You mean the comments of Governor Evers?
Yes.
I agree. And you were kind enough to mention a speaking opportunity I had today, and I was so glad you could be there. But I was talking about this workforce engagement and development as well for our tourism and hospitality industry workers. Over 30,000 people in Minneapolis work in hospitality and tourist fields.
Yeah, you did an awesome job. I hope you heard me yelling.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot of my native peeps.
That's
so,
right.
Folks, I chair the board here as of this year of our Convention and Visitors Association. It's called Meet Minneapolis, and not surprisingly, I'm the first Native chair of this organization. And so we had several tables of Native representation. I'm sure it was the highest Native attendance at this kind of fancy schmancy downtown lunch event. And I told all my peeps I want to hear some noise when I take the stage, and I did. I was very satisfied.
That was awesome. It was really interesting too. The last person speaking about the way the economy was, and he put it out there in black and white, and I thought, wow, this is really, really interesting on how uh, we really aren't in a recession because everybody's working, but the prices are going up, but also labor costs are going up.
Right, right. I thought that was amazing. Every year at this event, we have a sort of an insider professional in the hospitality and tourism industry that comes in and really puts out some good data. And this guy was great. I mean, he was fast and furious, and he overlaid a lot of the broader economic trends over on the recovery of
Hmm.
tourism and convention business. And really overall he was really enthused and positive about what he was
Hmm.
presenting to us, and kind of where the wealth is and who's controlling it. And it's not an equitable economy at all
Right.
yet, and hopefully it will be someday, but there is money in the economy, people are spending it. And he talked about the impact of the pandemic
Right.
on individuals and household incomes and resources and savings, and he made the correlation that Americans through the pandemic era saved, literally put into savings, $1.5 trillion dollars, and the total of the federal COVID support to individuals and households was $1.5 trillion dollars.
Yeah.
So people didn't have anywhere to spend that money, so they tended to save it, and now it's in a more regulated way being reintroduced into the economy, especially the travel economy.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but 20 years ago, that he talked about the Gen X, the Gen, what are we again? The Gen, the,
We're boomers, my friend, but he was
yeah,
talking
right.
about Gen X, right?
No, but what was
Don't try
interesting is
poser, you Gen X poser.
that's right. Hey, so the boomers were not the big spenders 20 years ago, and now they
Right.
are, and they have
Yeah,
most of the wealth. And I thought that was really interesting because a lot of the things that are happening and that have to do with the your organization is that we have a lot of people spending money on trips and vacations and going places.
that's true. And the organization being Meet Minneapolis, not Native American Community Development Institute,
That's
but you're
right.
right. And it was really interesting that 20 years ago, Gen Xers were actually outspending boomers, but now that's totally been flipped on its head. And it's boomers and not the older ones, which I thought was interesting. I think it was up to age 69. That's where a lot of the wealth right now lives. And it's people who are now spending their money on, a lot of it is on travel or the overall experiences,
Right.
right? And so, but travel being a popular one.
Well, I was apologizing to a few people on my table about that fact,
About
about the wealth of
yeah,
boomers.
that's you, Robert. You're controlling all the
And
wealth.
you, Robert. Sorry, Haley, you're coming up though around the bend.
Yeah.
You're not as bad off as the Gen Xers, they said.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
I definitely feel the money shortage on this end.
Well, that's
Well, now another
HR.
interesting thing was how millennials are really shifting the workforce into much more of a part-time workforce,
Yeah.
and that Gen Xers did not work part-time; they weren't interested in it. But now millennials are really stepping into this part-time space, which is, we need to adapt, right? That's what our
Mhm.
workforce looks like now.
And one other thing, and I really appreciate the invite and being there. And the one other thing that he said too, which really got a lot of applause, was that hire people without a degree. Is what
I
he
love
said.
that. So
Yeah.
here's my dirty little secret. I don't have a bachelor's degree. I don't have a college degree. I've had tons of training, gone to trade schools, but I'm just not a very academic person. And I know a few others in Native leadership who don't have degrees. And yeah, if that's a requirement, there's a lot of people who aren't going to clear that threshold, a lot of qualified people. So
Well,
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I did too. We're going to take a break, but that also brings up to what Governor Evers was talking about too, and it all kind of goes hand in hand. Hey, here we're with Robert Lilligren. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Signing up for $1 bus and train rides with the Transit Assistance Program, or TAP, is quick and easy. Do it straight from your computer or phone by uploading one of the pre-approved documents listed at metrotransit.org/TAP, along with a copy of your ID. We'll mail you a go-to card with a full year of discounted rides. For questions or translation help, call 612-373-3333. 612-373-3333.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
February is AM 950 Listener Appreciation Month. We can't run the station without you, and we wanted to show you how much we appreciate you listening to us. How it works is pretty simple. Throughout February, we'll ask you to like posts on Facebook, sign up for our e-newsletter, and call into the shows. When you do, you'll have a chance at winning prizes like gift cards to restaurants, tickets to our listener appreciation events, and much more. It's our way of thanking you for being a listener to AM 950. You are appreciated. Thanks from everyone at the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by All My Relations Arts and their current gallery exhibit, Okezi, in partnership with the American Swedish Institute, running now until April 13th at 1414 East Franklin Avenue, Minneapolis.
Wow, good read there, Haley. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Twin Cities. And Robert, I just wanted to kind of revisit that. We just talked at the very end there about having a degree. I just know so many people, and the big thing for me when I was a teacher, a lot of people were in the education business were really pushing degrees as opposed to maybe carpenters or bricklayers. And here we are, right, trade school. Here we are, years later, and we don't have enough tradespeople.
Right. No, you're exactly right. And, just towards the end of last year in the state of Minnesota, our governor, through executive order, eliminated the requirement for college degrees for like 75% of state jobs. And that will just open up those jobs to a whole new pool of candidates. And, for me, this goes to kind of equity and hiring and things. And if the people who are making the rules about hiring are trying to make rules that reflected them and their, histories and their, privileges, it's going to look a certain way, right? But if you open it up, you're going to find people that may be qualified in ways that you didn't even understand or acknowledge. So I think this is an exciting development. And as someone who went to at least 2 different trade schools, I'm a big advocate for trade schools and for reestablishing those paths. I'm sure through your career in education, Robert, you've seen some of that trade school pathway be dismantled, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone was so committed to a college track. And now I think we need to kind of go back to a range of opportunities.
Yeah, and my class, film and video, and then also I taught music too, was on that track. And it was
Sure.
crazy because it seemed like for a period of time that we had a lot of our college educated brothers and sisters or former students that were working at a bank for 14 bucks an hour where, they were crying for bricklayers to make 40 bucks an hour after 6 months of technical school. And so that was crazy. And with the big debt.
Right, right. Nope, it is crazy. And you see the trades now, and especially working, with unions and things. They
Mhm.
understand it. They need to be recruiting workers. They need to be diversifying their ranks. And so they're trying to establish these strategies that will get people into these skilled work people. And it's encouraging to see, but it's happening very slowly.
Yeah, it is. It is. Wow. That was a really cool and interesting day. Minneapolis is, when I ever read bad things about Minneapolis, they're from people that don't live in Minneapolis. And I think Minneapolis
Right.
has really made a big rebound since COVID and George Floyd. I know things aren't going to be the same, but, you know, I I feel like Minneapolis is on a big rebound, and today proved it by a lot of statistics, especially by that last speaker. But I also want to talk to you a little bit about what you had to say, and what is the definition, and how can we support here in Native Roots Radio or just around Turtle Island? How can we support uh, not only Native businesses but Native tourism?
Right. So that's a big priority of mine for my year as chair of this organization is to really lift up opportunities for Native tourism in the city of Minneapolis, in our region here, the Twin Cities region, and in our state. And it's just kind of an interesting challenge here in the city. And there's fairly robust infrastructure around Native tourism that tends to be government to government, specifically state government to tribal governments. And so when you have a city like Minneapolis where there isn't a sovereign nation that occupies these lands, how do we lift up Native tourism here when we have such a convergence, a density of Native interests? For millennia, this was an important cultural place. We have two rivers that converge here, the Mississippi and the Minnesota. We have sacred places like Spirit Island and others, Wakan Teepee right on the river. And there's a huge interest, not nationally and certainly internationally, in Indigenous cultures, Indigenous history, and practices. And there are dozens and dozens of efforts going on right here in our region to increase awareness and sort of formalize Native practices like walk on teepee,
Yeah,
as I know you're very familiar with it. And
yeah,
so here we have a chance now to work with our tribal partners, our urban partners, and really bring forward this idea of Native tourism. And I'll tell you, Robert, even right after today's lunch event, it was a big event, 600 people or something like that.
yeah.
But the CEO of Meet Minneapolis, pulled me aside, and we went out. And I don't know if you noticed, there's a sort of a flat, grassy land right in front of the convention center. And he said,
Oh,
what do you think of doing something with the tribes and having sort of tribal identifiers in this space and build awareness that way? And I'm like, let's do it. And
mhm.
so that just felt really good. It's like I
Yeah,
have this priority of lifting up Native tourism. Here's a project
yep,
that can help do it. So it's exciting
yeah.
for me.
Well, it's exciting for everyone when when you say that that was brought up to you, because if you go, people come to the convention center. I know I had relatives in town just a week or two ago with the volleyball
Oh
from
yeah,
all over the country, and it was huge. If we had a big old metal teepee out front and saying "Look, Dakota, Lakota land,
yeah.
occupied the Ojibwe and Ho Chunk," or some little plaque up there, that gets me going too.
And yeah, it matters, right? And also I think it's a good opportunity for the urban community here to work with the tribal communities. And I feel like the more opportunities we can frame up or that level of collaboration, cooperation, I think the better for all Indigenous people that live here.
Absolutely. Just recognizing, this is Lakota, Dakota land and Ojibwe land.
Yes.
And, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but I heard through one of our other guests in the last couple of weeks, which still kind of stuck with me and kind of blew my mind, was that, and I don't know if we talked about, but in Minneapolis, and they got their information from public schools in Minneapolis, that there's over 150 different tribes
Sure.
that are in the Minneapolis area. That blew my mind.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I know a lot of the organizations that we collaborate with have dozens and dozens of tribes represented, and that starts to get to some of the challenges of how to sort of organize an urban Indian community. And in the state of Minnesota, we have 11 federally recognized tribes. Some communities as well, and we have our infrastructure around the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council, which is a piece of the state government, but that is still so very, very much government to government, right? So if you're talking about 100 plus tribal citizens that live here, that's leaving out a significant amount of the population, the Native population, who doesn't have a government to government relationship within our state. And so how do we broaden this? I mean, always respecting, supporting, and uplifting the sovereignty of our 11 federally recognized tribes, and creating a way for the tribes that aren't from Minnesota. How are they represented? How are they protected through the government process?
Yeah, and I know in school, like with the groups that the funds that could happen, you just had to, if you were and it was different in St. Paul, I think, than in other parts of the country. But if your grandmother or grandfather were enrolled, you could get the services, and you didn't have to have a ID saying that you were enrolled at another tribe. We just had to prove it and get the services out there, whether it's Indian Ed or field trips or money paid for, or sports or things like that. That all the tribes can. Tribal members from different tribes can do. And so hopefully something like that, city-wise or state-wise, can be worked out too, just the kind of the proof of lineage. And
right, yeah, and that's huge, right? And we've also had these conversations, and I'm not an education person. I know you are, but as resources come in that support Indigenous people, Native American people, there are pipelines that's funding and resources that specifically support American Indian students. But then we have Indigenous people from south of the border, and so it kind of complicates that conversation. Are these families and students eligible for some level of support as well? It's
Robert,
complicated.
Can you stay on another segment?
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. I feel like we need to talk a little politics here in the next segment. Hey, we're with Robert Lilligren, our friend and glass ceiling breaker, as I saw today. And we're going to be talking a little politics here and finishing up with Robert. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break. Hey, if you're like a lot of people, you're probably relieved that the holiday celebrations are over. But there's one thing that might stay with us from the holidays besides all those gifts, and that's COVID-19. Numbers from COVID are going up as we spend more time inside. And Native Americans are seeing even bigger case spikes. With all the indoor celebrations over the holidays, you may have unknowingly been exposed to someone with COVID-19. That's why it's important to stay vigilant. If you notice any symptoms like a fever, a tickle in the throat, or heavy fatigue, take an at-home test. They're still free and can be ordered at sayyeshometest.org. If you do test positive, you're eligible for free treatment, and no health insurance is required.
Visit health.state.mn.us to connect with providers and receive your treatment. Let's make 2024 the healthiest year ever, securing a brighter future for our Native community. Life can be hard. Sometimes it feels like there's no answers, like there's no way out. Hennepin County's COPE Mobile Crisis Response is here to listen and help you find a way through whatever is going on in your life. Call 612-596-1223 for no-cost crisis support anytime, anywhere in Hennepin County. That number is 612-596-1223.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
All My Relations Arts presents Okizi. Okizi means to heal, and the exhibition highlights the healing power of cultural revitalization for Native communities. Okizi showcases prints, mixed media, textiles, beadwork, digital collage, and glass sculptures by Native American and Sami artists. It explores Indigenous communities' active healing efforts through language revitalization, land back movements, and embracing traditional knowledge. Visit All My Relations Arts to experience Okizi through April 13th. More information at allmyrelationsarts.org. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Are your remote workers putting your company at risk? Not sure what steps to take to secure your data? Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide with the 5 steps to securely work from home. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 34, then Friday sunshine with a high of 58. Every bite at Maverick's Real Roast Beef is a taste of perfection. And there's so much more than roast beef. Don't miss the Philly steak sandwiches, BLT, crispy chicken, and more. They're on Lexington Avenue in Roseville, 1 block north of Larpenteur Avenue. Visit mavericksbeef.com.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Great sponsor and a great organization. We really, one of the first sponsors 7 years ago of Native Roots Radio. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, Native American Community Development Institute here in Minneapolis, the CEO and president, among many other organizations. We always joke about the 18. I think it just turned to 19, didn't it, today? Or
I think it's 17. I think we're at 17.
And we like to catch up, and it was funny. Last week, Robert, I don't know if you knew this, but I was outside of McDonald's with their strong Wi-Fi doing a radio show, and I felt like, wow, we were on a roll. I hated to cut you off, but there's a lot going around nationally and locally. Super Tuesday's coming around the corner. Trump seems to be getting more and more votes as it goes. But if you do the math with Nikki Haley's taken some of that, and some of it might come Democrat, but then we also have our own issues with people that aren't voting, and poor Dean is only getting 2% of the vote.
Right.
Help me.
So, and here in Minnesota, Tuesday night was caucus night.
Yes.
Did either of you caucus? Yeah. So
Yeah, I couldn't this week, but I normally do.
Sure. And I did caucus, but I haven't done it for 10 years maybe. I used to do it every year or every cycle, but
Mm-hmm.
I needed a little break. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so we have so much movement in the presidential race. You know, we have the Supreme Court
Mm-hmm.
that has now agreed to hear Trump's immunity case. And that's a bit of a concern. And there's been lower courts that have said he's not immune. And of course, Trump's argument is that anything he calls discharging presidential duty while he was a president, including inciting an insurrection on January 6th, he is immune to prosecution. So several other lower courts have kind of laughed that out of court. Now the Supreme Court has agreed to hear it. You know, they can slow roll this, so there wouldn't be a decision handed down until after the election. And I kind of feel like the Supreme Court is slow rolling us right into a dictatorship.
Yeah, some of the response to it early on before the Supreme Court said that they were going to take this on is like, well, that means Biden could maybe even do something before if he loses the election and puts Trump into jail or something. I mean, it's ridiculous and crazy.
Well, right. Or what the lower court judge asked is if Joe Biden directed the SEAL teams to take out a political enemy, is he immune? And essentially Trump's lawyer said, yeah. So that makes people start to think what Joe Biden could do and get away with while he's still president. So, I mean, it's a ridiculous case. Our Supreme Court could have just refused to hear it, and then the lower court rulings would stand. And the fact that, you know, I said this on the show, I've said it a lot, I do not think our Supreme Court is legitimate anymore. No. I don't think that they can dispense justice for a majority of Americans. I don't think they're interested in dispensing justice for a majority of Americans. And when Trump speaks, they act. I read a commentary today that called it fetch, that they're, you know, Trump throws the stick and they go fetch it, right? And so, so it's scary.
It really is, especially, I was thinking earlier, it's like, well, the Supreme Court did good on ICWA, but that was another thing which really surprised me in a good way. But this doesn't surprise. This frightens me too, because I think their rationale is that no state should what word am I looking for? No state should have that much power over an election. So that was their rationale, and other, and we're sitting here going, this guy did an insurrection and he's insane.
Right. Yeah. And so Illinois just booted him off the ballot, right? So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I've never seen anything like this. And with these early primaries and things, and looking sort of at the Republican numbers, there's Republicans who think that even though Trump is winning these by double-digit margins, that they're seeing risk there, that this really isn't going all his way. His margins aren't nearly what polls indicated, and so there's some kind of dynamic happening there as well.
Yeah. Well, the big national media is talking about, is Biden too old? And yet we see and hear speeches from Trump saying outrageous things that, and mispronouncing words that makes you wonder, is he too old? And is he going, does he have an onset of dementia? But nobody talks about that.
Right. I think we'll start hearing more and more of that. I can only imagine. And I think we can just acknowledge that they're both old, right? They're old candidates. 4 years ago, they broke the record as the oldest man to run for president. So 4 years later, they're breaking their own record. Right? Yeah. And I have to say, it is a little disappointing that we're not someplace else, but these are our candidates. And I read another commentary this week that compared sort of the mental state of Biden and Trump. And this expert's belief was Biden's brain is aging, Trump's brain is dementing.
Yeah.
And with each sort of public appearance, it can track the deterioration in his mental state. And so I guess you have to pick which old man do you want to be, have his finger on the, nuclear codes and be the, be running this country. Yeah.
Well, and this country is so racist. One of the biggest problems that I see with Biden is that people are racist towards his vice president, thinking that he's old, that she's going to end up being president. And I'm like, give me a break. We went through hell with Trump. She can't do any worse than that and won't do worse than that. Will do a lot better. My God.
That is a pretty low bar, Robert, but I would welcome a President Harris if that's what things play out. But I think the alternative, putting his hands in a demented wannabe dictator, is just too dangerous. And we'll have to all figure out how to join hands and get into the voting booths in November. And looking at Michigan and their primary race, and of course they had a protest vote, right? There was a movement to vote undecided as a protest vote for the Biden administration's positions on the Israel. Yeah. And so good. I think that was good. Their goal was, I think, to get 10,000 undecided votes. They got 100,000. They got over 100,000.
Oh,
actually. And so it sends a message, right? People are not happy with what this administration's doing, and here's your opportunity to do better.
And I don't know, it was reported yesterday, and it was something going to come out this week, Friday or Thursday, about the border, that Biden may try and do a presidential order about that, seeing that the legislature or I should say the Senate is not moving on it. And it's sickening to see this new Speaker of the House talk about spewing out, yes, the border's broken, and you guys, and then in the same breath, you got to say back to him, you guys had a chance to fix this, and people were welcome to that bipartisan vote.
Right. Well, and President Biden was at the border today, so was Trump, and I haven't been able to follow up on that yet, so I don't really know what happened. But to the congressional inaction on this, and the deal that Congress had to vote on was it was the Republicans' deal. They had everything. It wasn't that sweet of a package, but at least it did something, right? And because Trump didn't want the Biden administration to have any successes here, he sunk it. And he convinced enough Republicans to step away from this that they couldn't even pass their own bill. And I just think that shows where their values are, the Republicans in Congress, and where Trump's values are. He doesn't care who, if this country succeeds, he cares about himself.
So was Mitch McConnell talking in code about Trump, and kind of why he, even though he's 82 years old, why in the longest serving senator, is he talking code about, I'm getting out because this is insane and Trump's insane?
That's such a good question. And it really was, I'm interested in McConnell's announcement. He's the longest serving Senate leader ever in the history of this country. And he's 82, which, is around the age of our presidential candidates, right? And so I kind of viewed it as, by him, well, first off, he's been having challenges, right? We've seen him freeze up in public twice, which is really terrifying to watch. And also, he's mitigating the criticisms that Trump is too old, and I guess in some ways that Biden is too old to run for office by stepping aside. He takes away this argument that, well, look at McConnell, he's old and he's still in office. But I have a hunch that it's connected to his health more than just about anything. But you mentioned Congress as well, and one of the things that has me losing sleep and pulling my hair out is this inability for Congress to do their basic job and approve a budget, right? And so
Here we go.
It's shredding confidence in the U.S. economy. It's lowering our credit ratings with the bond ratings with the bond houses, which means money costs more money. And so that hits the taxpayers right in the bottom line. And they just keep messing around with this. And so finally, we have a continuing resolution that lasts a week. In the last one, and so March 8th, we'll lose about half the federal funding, March 20-something second, maybe the other half. And it's just such a fundamental obligation of the House, especially, to approve a budget. And they can't even do that.
Yeah.
So they're not governing by any stretch of the imagination. They're just positioning. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, Robert, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. The beginning of the evening, it's warm again. We had one day of winter, and now it's 50 degrees again.
It's back.
So get out and walk around the lakes, and get on your bike.
Having me. Yeah, I will. I'm about there. And
right
nice
on. Hey, Robert Lilligren, Big Peeny Geegy. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and that was Robert Lilligren of Native American Community Development Institute here in Minneapolis, our Thursday guest. We'll be right back.
As we pack away the ornaments and bid farewell to the holiday season, it's time to unwrap the gift that keeps on giving, getting protected by a COVID-19 vaccination. This is your chance to make a difference, especially as our Native communities face higher COVID numbers. Those higher numbers underscore the need for collective action. So answer the call and get vaccinated. The latest vaccines are not just authorized, but they're proven effective against the current variants. This is extra protection even if you've already had previous vaccines, since previous vaccines will eventually wear off. Plus, the new shots are FDA approved for ages 6 months and up. A COVID vaccine is not just a shot. It's a pledge to safeguard the wisdom and stories handed down by our elders. So join the movement, get vaccinated, and make 2024 the healthiest year ever, securing a brighter future for our Native community. For more information, including details about clinics offering free vaccines, visit vaccines.gov.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
J&S Bean Factory is a Native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
How?
Good one.
Hey, one in a row. Hey, that was awesome to have Robert Lilligren on, and what work he does in the community. Just it amazes me. It totally amazes me. So we're lucky to have him on and talk about a few things each week, and we're really lucky to have all our guests, and especially the regulars, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love when Robert Lilligren comes on, and it's always funny to joke about all of the titles that he has. Very prestigious.
Exactly.
So yeah, before I forget though, I want to give a big birthday shout out to one of our friends. I know you know her quite well, Amy Lone Tree, Ho Chunk Nation citizen. Happy birthday, Amy. Another Pisces birthday. I got a shout out there, but there's a story here that I don't think we've talked about yet, Robert, on Native Roots Radio. And this came out a couple days ago. It's actually right here in Minnesota, a story here in Minnesota. a 12-year-old piano prodigy here from White Earth Nation. Jamie Little Wolf has taught himself to play piano on his little sister's toy piano growing up. And the article that I was reading, it just sounds like Jamie is so talented and has already taught himself Beethoven songs of classical on the piano. He's only 12 years old, so Jamie, just a huge congratulations. Keep making music. That's really amazing.
Yeah, definitely. You're coming in and out a little bit all of a sudden, Haley, and freezing. That's a boomer. Hey, let's talk a little bit this weekend. I know your birthday's coming up, so are you registered anywhere where people can buy you a gift? Are you registered at Target or anything or any jewelry store? She's shaking her head yes. She can't hear me. So I think we're losing out a little audio. Somebody's gaming in the area, probably taking their internet down. Are you able to hear me, Haley? Okay, she's not. So I have to do the show by myself. I'm just going to really talk about the play that we're going to go see starting March 2nd through the 9th. And we had a guest on a couple of days ago about the play Bear Grease, and it's written by Crystal Lightning, and she's Cree and MC Red Cloud, aka Lightning Cloud. Bear Grease is a Treaty 6 indigenous twist on the classic musical Grease, featuring an all-indigenous cast. This hilarious twist of the 1978 classic remains the beloved musical as culturally relevant and indigenous humor and pride. And that is going to be at the Gremlin Theater here in St. Paul, 550 Vandalia Street, Suite 177. Again, that's St. Paul, Minnesota. And you can pay as you can, but the suggested price is $35. Haley, are you there?
I am. Sorry about that. My internet connection is a little fuzzy right now.
I was just saying somebody was driving by gaming and they took your internet there and they're gaming outside your door like I was at McDonald's.
Yes, just sucking all that good Wi-Fi right on out. But did you hear? Hopefully you got to hear my story on Jamie Little Wolf from White Earth.
No, we didn't.
You didn't? Okay. Well, shout out to Jamie Little Wolf. It was a story.
Oh, about the piano player?
Yes,
Yes, we did. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Great.
I do listen to the show. I do, really.
Oh, okay.
I really do.
That's good.
Then I was just talking about Bear Grease because that was in front of me. And again, I just want to say the dates real quick before we move on with a few things that you have in your medicine bag about what's happening this weekend. March 2nd at 7:30, Rock Your Mocks night. I'll be wearing my mocks. March 3rd, it's 2 p.m. and which I believe is Saturday, so that's Elders Day. So, people like me that can't stay up late will go to the 2 p.m. one. Then they swing and start again on March 7th, Auntie's Night. March 8th, Native Bling Night. March 9th, Youth Day. That ought to be good. And then March 9th at 7:30, 1950s Costume Contest. And again, I will dress up like I was, in the big AIM fight down in Standing Rock or wherever. But so, Haley, can you hear me? What else do we got going now that I've exhausted the new Native Theater Bear Grease play?
Oh, well, since we're on the topic of new Native Theater, I just want to shout out, I think that they're still looking for a Two-Spirit powwow coordinator. So if you or anyone you know is really great at putting together a big celebration, a powwow, reach out to New Native Theater or check them out at newnativetheater.org. But I also just want to mention that today is a leap day, which hopefully we all are aware of that.
Every 7 years, somebody has a birthday today.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday. We love birthdays. Yeah, I just, hopefully, did you hear my Amy Lone Tree shout out? Her birthday was yesterday.
No, I didn't. Shout it out again.
Happy birthday, Amy.
Yeah, and we'd love to get Amy back in town. We're kind of talking about doing another book reading at All My Relations in between the shows. and have Kathy Coates come in and talk about the book, because that was such a smashing success.
Oh, absolutely. I know I'm taking that book on the plane with me this weekend, so I'm excited to get a couple chapters and read some more information about the history of Ho Chunk here in Minnesota, and all about, what happened down in Mankato. I just also want to shout out, today is the last day of February, the leap day, the 29th. It is also the last day of Black History Month. So we just always want to recognize and lift up our BIPOC and our Black relatives, and we're in this together. And then tomorrow is the first day of Women's History Month.
And I want to give a shout out to the Afro-Indigenous people who call themselves that, because they're have, like you said, the BIPOC people, and then we got the I don't know, here in this house and in New York, every day is Women's Day, so that's good that everyone else is celebrating that.
I love that. I love that. Speaking of really great women's history, I want to mention Lily Gladstone's win again this past weekend at the 30th Annual SAG Awards. Lily took home Best Female Actor in a Leading Role for, again, Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm hoping that I kind of have a little hunch that she's going to win that Oscar, but just, again, the Oscars will be airing Sunday, March 10th, and hopefully all of Indian Country will be tuning in.
Yeah, well, it's not always, but a good high percentage, I don't know, 90%. If you win the Golden Globes, you're more than likely going to win an Oscar. It's a prequel to that, and she won the Golden Globe, so we'll be looking forward to that. And I got to watch that movie again. It's on Apple TV. I have to sit down. It's 3 hours and 30 minutes, but it flies by, and now that it's on TV, you can take a pause. And especially in the beginning, it's pretty horrific. The first 20 minutes of the movie, with all the murdering of Native Americans in cold blood. So you have to be in a good spiritual mind and place to be able to watch that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely have some support watching that show. It can be a little triggering for some. I know also one of Lily's films that I really enjoyed was The Unknown Country. And that talked about her. I know in that movie, her character was actually working in Minneapolis, and they mentioned Minneapolis in that film quite a bit.
Well, and as you know, Haley, we're really proud here in Minneapolis because we have one of the most thriving urban Native communities in the country here. Not the biggest, but one of the most thriving. And we're really happy to be part of that. And, everywhere we go, we see a Native and an eagle. Ho-wah.
That's so true. That is so true. Always, I heard something the other day. It was, keep your head up. If not, you won't see the eagles.
Yeah. Well, and if you're like me, sometimes I think I saw an eagle, but it was not. And but I got the binoculars out and the phone. And hey, want to give a big shout out to Robert Lilligren. I want to give a shout out to Wendy Pilot, who's listening and who gave me a big yes about that, what I said about every day is Women's Day. And I just want to say, we're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now.